some interesting thoughts from Anthony Dicomo. So now that the season is 1/3 done, Memorial Day is like kind of the tentpole flagship highway marker, or it's time for some reflection. So the first third of the season is for self-evaluation, he says. The second third is for action, right? Because the trade deadline's looming, that August 1st date, right? So you have pretty much June and July to really take action. It's like, all right, here are weaknesses. Here's where we're falling short. Here's what we need to address. So I can't see the Mets being inactive at the trade deadline. And maybe I don't see it being a huge splash. I said this before, but I think Vogelback's on the block. I think, I think people have kind of written him off, even though it's, he walks a lot, he gets on base, but that's not what you're looking for out of him. Maybe there's a thought that, I don't know if they want to. I'm torn between, do we trade Ronnie Mauricio or do we just call him up and have him play second and shift McNeil to the outfield? Like our corner outfielders have been underperforming. I mean, you can't disagree with that. They've been underperforming all year. They're just not. I mean, we have guys like Alvarez and Beatty that came up way later. Have not played as many games and are pretty much on the heels of putting up the same kind of numbers, or if not better than Marte and Canna. So I don't know. Maybe I don't know. But I think you might see Mauricio come up earlier than later, especially if we're continuing to kind of struggle and hover around that 500 mark. So Francisco Lindor, very confusing, right? He's the best overall shortstop we've had since Jose Reyes, easily a top 2 talent, the position in franchise history. And fans are still going to be hot and cold with him. I don't think everyone's on board the Francisco Lindor Express yet. And that stinks, but understandable. I mean, people want to get what they pay for, and they figure if they pay him as the highest paid shortstop in baseball, he should be the best shortstop in baseball. And it's like, if he were earning $100 million less, would we even be criticizing him? Would we be talking down on him? No, obviously not. But as Dicomo points out, like if he gives the Mets a signature moment in the postseason, Game 7 winning hit, home run, all that ails you will be cured in the postseason. It's really what it comes down to. Get to the postseason, win in the postseason, and pretty much all is forgiven, I guess. Not that there's much to. There shouldn't be any reason to forgive him for any. He hasn't committed any sins, really. It's just, I think he's not quite putting up the same numbers he did with Cleveland, so that's a bummer. But he's also not a complete bust, or it's not like he's below average in many categories at all. He does lead the team in strikeouts, and he does have the lowest batting average among qualifiers, guys that play a lot. And his on-base percentage is .295. So he's striking out a lot, or he's getting extra base hits. He's slugging. He's slugging or striking out. Doubles, home runs, or strikeout. And, Buck seems to think that he's just trying to be too perfect, and, maybe just needs to relax, So we talked about Vogelbach. He was supposed to be this guy that can really own right-handed pitchers, and that really hasn't been the case. He's got on-base prowess, but the power drought is extensive and long and lengthy and never-ending. So I don't think many people see that turning around, and I think that's why he'll be trade bait. Which sucks, because he does have a very healthy portion of the fan base that loves him for his personality and for what he brings to the team in terms of chemistry and all that. But woof, dude, you got to start knocking in. You got to start slugging like big time. So, they've already kind of made it. Vientos got the start tonight against the lefty Suarez, and not exactly lighting it up. We talked about let the kids play, but I think the majority of that, other than Vientos having that huge game tying home run, I think it was against the Rays, maybe, hasn't been that great. He was below 200 entering today's game. I think he got above 200 with his hit tonight. But it's really been Alvarez and Beatty, and it's been Alvarez as like the clear guy leading the way. Like, we'll get into Alvarez's numbers soon, but oh my God. It's way above and beyond our wildest dreams. I don't think anyone saw his outburst, his production the way it is now. Like I said, Verlander and Scherzer, I think a lot of people thought will go as far as they go. And I didn't have a ton of confidence in them coming into the season. And, Dicomo mentions that they're more limited versions of themselves than we've seen in the past. And I agree. And to me, it's like it's hard to see them as the 1 and 2. I just can't see, it's just, but we don't have any better options at this point. To me, a 1 and 2, I don't know. Maybe it's just getting more acclimated. I don't know. But it's if we are relying on them to kind of spearhead the movement towards getting above 500 and getting in contention and getting back in the wild card race, I just don't like. We just need them to pitch league average at this point, So Dicomo posits that is it going to be Kodai Senga that leads the way and becomes our ace, the number 1 guy, and I could see that happening. He looked unhittable against the Rays, but again, the walks are killer, walking too many batters, and his pitch count is getting too high, and that's why he has to leave most games. And even with that, he's still giving us more innings, even on every 6th day, giving us deeper outings than most of our other pitchers. Pete Alonso looking like he's on pace to hit 60 home runs or more, which is great. Brett Beatty is just like the guy at third. Doesn't feel or look or seem like a rookie. I mean, he's a little young looking dude. He still looks like he's in high school. I'll never get over that. But Dicomo says that he is most like Michael Conforto in a comparison in terms of demeanor. And I agree with that. Conforto didn't often handled a lot of what the ups and downs with pretty much an even keel. Never got too down. And you can see that with Beatty as well. Dicomo calls him unflappable on and off the field, which is kind of, if he's a placid lake, Alvarez is a straight up volcano popping out through that lake and blowing into the stratosphere. I think people were worried about his defense when they called him up, and he had a pretty ugly couple first outings behind the plate, and now he's a great defender, good defender, throwing guys out. He threw a guy out tonight. I think he threw out Real Moto, which was huge in a close game like that. But the defense has been a nice icing on the cake. It's his offense that has really stolen the show. We talked about how we were lacking power in the last episode. It's like you take away Alonso and it's like no one's hitting home runs. But then Alvarez went on a tear. Lindor is hitting more home runs now. The Mets have hit a home run in 12 straight games, which is their longest streak of the season. I think this makes it 13 or 14 straight games because this stat is from like a couple days ago. 21 home runs in that span. And it's been thanks to Alvarez and Alonso, obviously, and Lindor. The most home runs hit by a Met under the age of 22 in a single month in club history. Darryl Strawberry had 9 in 83. Svoboda had 7 in 65. And then you have Alvarez, 7 in the month of May. This is from a couple days ago, but he's hit 4 home runs over his last 7 games. The list of Mets under the age of 22 to hit at least 4 home runs over any 7-game span: Strawberry, Greg Jeffries, David Wright, Francisco Alvarez. The highest FWAR among National League rookies this season: Francisco Alvarez, 1.1. He's in third behind Corbin Carroll and James Outman. So it was a pretty easy decision for Buck to be like, all right, we're going to need to DFA Gary Sanchez. That's pretty obvious. And then he ended up signing with the Padres. But it looks like we have our guy. And now the booth was talking about how Narvaez is set to come back like next week or something like that. And they're like, I don't see any reason why you would sit Alvarez for Narvaez. I think at this point, you got to ride the hot hand and just say, Alvarez, it's your position to lose. Really, you won it with your performance. I mean, I don't know if I have most of his numbers here, but he's got over 800 OPS. And if you just take the last like 2 weeks or something like that, his OPS is like 1400, some nonsense. He's just playing out of his mind And, part of the realist part of my brain is like, all right, well, eventually he's going to come back down to the median. He can't play like that all season long. But my God, champagne problems, right? If Narvaez can come back and at least play average, having those two guys behind the plate, being able to spell them and still getting the kind of performance that we've been dying for. Think about the seasons we had McCann, when Nito had like a breakout month and we were losing it over, the fact that we had someone behind the dish to give us some kind of output. And then Nito took a dive for the worst. So I like that combo, Narvaez and Alvarez. Very nice. So that's another position that we can probably not have to worry about. I have the utmost confidence in that position now. It's crazy how we went from like bottom of the barrel to now like we probably have the best 1-2 combo unit in all Major League Baseball. Just got to figure out the DH, got to figure out the corner outfield, and a bullpen arm wouldn't hurt, right? Bullpen arms never hurt. Mets are tied for the first in Major League Baseball for their teams in a fielding percentage at 990. This is something we talked about. Least amount of errors in the league with only 18, and that goes a long way. And I hope that continues. I think that's if you can continue to get some pretty good production from your offense, if the pitching can ever just settle down and come back to the league average, the defense will win championships. So that's the Mets.